Pessimism, nihilism, cynicism, defeatism. These and similar forms of black-pilled negativity are both toxic and contagious. We need to purge ourselves of these tendencies. They're not ours. They're foreign and unhealthy and destructive. We tend to like to think of reality as something that just is, and the manner in which we think or speak about it is merely an after-the-fact recounting, having little to no bearing on reality itself. This couldn't be more wrong. Our reality isn't composed of a litany of black and white facts, but rather a subjective story being told in real time. Several storytellers compete to dominate the narrative, and all contribute to help steer the story to some extent, creating our norms and that foundational understanding of our existence that the majority tends to agree on and use as their starting point as they navigate the world. But the jarring truth is that this center point is always conjured. It's an invention, a storyline we collectively choose to buy into, and one that could shift profoundly at any moment. For example, one could make the statement, "America is great," and give 1,000 compelling reasons as to why this is the case, and, likely, at the end of this long recitation, create some belief and enthusiasm in a crowd of people with regards to the greatness of America. One could make the statement, "America is horrible," and give 1,000 compelling reasons as to why this is the case, and again, likely win over much of that same crowd, provided they hadn't just heard the other speech. We need to consider the implications of this. The manner in which we subjectively choose to view and speak about our world quite literally shapes our reality from the ground up. I can't stress enough how simple and animalistic and herd-like our wiring is relative to popular conception. I suspect those watching this video, even solely based on the fact that you're seeking out alternative viewpoints, have attained a bit more self-mastery on this front than those on the other side of the ideological fence. But none of us are completely immune to these innate tendencies. Consider the exceedingly strange concept of laugh tracks in sitcoms. Laugh tracks are added to TV shows because they work. They serve their purpose with supreme efficiency. Hearing others laugh makes us far more likely to laugh ourselves, just as seeing someone yawn often triggers a yawn of our own. Or picture yourself playing a game with a friend and hearing them say, "This is stupid." Almost instantly, the game seems a bit more stupid, perhaps silly and pointless and inconsequential, a waste of time. Picture this same experience with the friend saying, "This is great, I love this." Instantly, you're able to see the brighter points of the activity. You find what's enjoyable about it and allow yourself to enjoy it a bit more than you might have otherwise. Our words create and shape our reality. We're constantly seeking to operate on a similar frequency to those around us, which means we readily adopt the frame or lens through which others see the world as we listen to them speak. We do this out of necessity. Speaking personally, I know that communication or mutual understanding would be impossible if I didn't possess that ability we're all blessed with of intuitively and automatically putting myself in the shoes of the other party, insofar as I'm able, as a means to understand where they're coming from as we communicated. I need as full a context picture as possible in order to best understand how you intend the words you're using to be understood. Which means, to some extent, I need to try to view the world from your vantage point as we converse. During this period of time, I'm adopting your perspective to some extent. I'm seeing reality through your eyes. And if what I hear from you resonates with me, I carry a portion of this reality away with me and make it my own. Something like a little transfusion of worldviews, passed from one individual to another. Though we rarely stop to recognize it, there's a tremendous responsibility in this. We're all actively wiring and rewiring one another, molding and shaping each other's brains in a literal sense. we're ever so slightly reorienting each other's frequency. Now, if we're taking in news from a network we deeply distrust, for example, we may have our guard up and be able to reject much of what's being communicated, at least all that's being directly and obviously communicated, that which we recognize well enough to block. When we're listening to someone we trust or resonate with, what they communicate to us gains more purchase in our minds, making it all the more important that we be cognizant of our effect on our peers. Our expressed sentiments don't exist in a vacuum. They rattle around in the heads of those who hear them forever. Whether they're at the forefront or in the deepest recesses, something seen or heard can never be unseen or unheard, and everything leaves some imprint. One of the reasons some people express black-pilled sentiments is our strong desire to not be seen as naive. Because those subversives that have taken the reins of our culture are cynical and nihilistic, for decades they've naturally painted these characteristics in a positive light, thereby improving our impression of these traits. It's now seen as quite cool and hip to be someone who doesn't care about anything, who mistrusts everyone, who can lie to or make a fool of everyone else, but never allow it to happen to him. In this environment, those who insult and mock everything, or those with purely negative expectations from the world, can then enjoy a smug and condescending chuckle when things do turn out poorly, in a "see I told you so" manner. This strikes me as the epitome of a Pyrrhic victory, and certainly nothing to be proud of. And if you find yourself hearing these words and wanting to counter with, "But we can't delude ourselves and live in some fantasy world of optimism as Rome burns to the ground around us," we're very much in agreement here. I'm certainly not asking that we collectively embrace delusion, but rather the polar opposite. It's the bleak and hopeless vision that's true delusion. It's this worldview that's been artificially contrived and injected from the outside by subversive elements, far more trained in the realm of manipulation and psychological mechanisms of control than we. In actuality, we're very much like a sleeping giant, one that only needs to wake to its own power for the game to be won. And yet, hopeless and angry is the mold they've created and perpetuated for the far right. A tiny and powerless minority up against an all-powerful, omnipresent, godlike force, in a culture war they could never hope to win. Embracing this point of view, with all due respect, shows a complete ignorance of precedent, a lack of historical context. Anyone that traces our journey back through the branches of Indo-European cultures, observing the unconquerable spirit and strength of will and resilience stretching back to the very dawn of recorded history, can't help but know that our total defeat is impossible, unless we decide to make it inevitable. And once you've made this realization, you can't help but get angry with those pretending that if we're simply outnumbered, or outmoneyed, or out-influenced at the moment, then we're doomed. This is idiocy, and it's contagious idiocy, that, whether knowingly or unknowingly, works to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. When an element of the story being told is accepted by an individual, this acceptance helps further solidify the foundation of this element, instantly making it more believable and more real, to both the storyteller and the listener, and thus anyone they subsequently converse with. Picture that individual picking up a hammer and nails and setting about to help build a physical, structural foundation, along with all others accepting the same storyline element. Regardless of whether this element is true, the greater number of individuals that believe it, the more true it becomes. The more solid its foundations upon which to build out still more derivative ideas and concepts. One of the first big red flags regarding those so aggressively pushing the "it's all hopeless" mindset was reading through the handbooks and guides of those directly subversive elements that infiltrate our communities, usually for pay, sometimes as a hobby. Nearly all of their tactics center around demoralization and the cultivation of a feeling of hopelessness. They know full well if they're able to succeed in creating that deep-seated feeling of we haven't a hope in the world, they've essentially won the battle already. If we all constantly tell one another we have no hope, we officially have no hope. One of the best analogies would be soldiers on a battlefield. Skilled generals throughout history knew full well that morale was everything. The first side to break loses, and the first side that says to itself, we're going to win at any cost, has almost guaranteed itself victory, even if the odds are against them. Very few armies have ever gone to the extreme of this any-cost pledge, of course, with the exceptions being cases like the Spartans at Thermopylae, who ironically did technically lose the battle, so this may seem like a strange example to cite. But did they really lose in the broader scheme? Not only did their actions help prevent the Persians from conquering their homeland, but their courage and heroism will live on into eternity, serving to strengthen their honor and reputation for themselves and their culture, both within the lifetime of their nation, as well as for their genetic and cultural descendants into posterity. Their energy lives on, and insofar as their culture represented the good and noble and healthy, the strength of the memories of their immortalized actions served to turn the world towards the good, towards the strong and noble and healthy, and serve to remind us what it means to be a man. There's a reason nations punished those vocal defeatists on the front line nearly as aggressively as traitors or deserters, and a reason why opposing forces always spend such a great deal of time and energy on demoralization operations. An army can be destroyed through such psychological tactics. There's a reason generals have always sought to give stirring speeches before conflicts. These speeches are an energy and strength infusion. They can serve to inspire men to act far more energetically and decisively, not only increasing the chances of winning a battle, but potentially saving lives, and avoiding a long, depressing, drawn-out stalemate. Mentality and perspective matters tremendously. They want us acting like children, huddled together in a corner, whispering about how bad our parents are and telling jokes about them behind their backs, marginalized, submissive, and afraid. Whereas we need to wake to the fact that we are the parents in this clown world, the last remaining adults in the room with open eyes and clear vision, representing a lofty and illustrious tradition without equal. And that these actual petulant children and subversive outsiders, incapable of true leadership or proper governance, have taken over the home, and will destroy it if we don't soon restore the natural order. We can either grant one another hope, inspiration, and infuse one another with energy and spirit, or we can do the opposite and paint a hopeless and bleak picture, and thereby mutually depress and drain one another. And again, the true power to decide this outcome doesn't lie on the other side, but with us. We're fully capable of making either of these potential futures a reality. It's all a case of which we collectively choose to speak into being. Choose victory.